Yep, we're live.
We're live. Oh my goodness. I've never just been put live like this before.
I know,
So
right?
we are discussing Dawn of DC number 9, Legacy number 852 by Williamson, Redondo, and Lucas. Uh, do you have, I don't know, do I have the ability to share? I don't think, do you have
I've
the
got.
ability to share?
I'll put a share screen, and if our backstage guy can put stuff up on Still Store.
That's from Mystery Science Theater.
Yeah, I know. I've been watching been watching they MST3K has a live YouTube channel where they play everything forever now. So I've been watching a bunch of it on repeat. But we're here to talk Superman.
Yeah.
So just a few things regarding the credits, which I think it's always good to. We still have the same writer, so we're still dealing with Williamson. We have a new artist though. The last issue had, I think, 2 or 3. I think it was almost 3 artists.
Right.
We had a.
And we were talking about the fill-in pages that were probably done last minute and things like that. And
right, but I missed something because the last page was back to the original artist with Campbell. So the final image with Superman all in trouble with Kryptonite was actually a Campbell page. So there was, I think, actually 3 artists on that particular book. So probably some shenanigans happening there. This book has a new artist, and we can talk a little bit about that in a moment because I do want to touch on that.
yeah.
That's kind of the situation. Hutch, do you want to give?
If you don't mind me saying, if in our last show we had spent quite a bit of time discussing how suddenly it cuts to this smash shot of Superman is all torn away and green, and it's like we didn't really see that happening. It wasn't conveyed well, and I think switching between the artists probably happening last minute may be the reason why it isn't really well conveyed that he's being hit with kryptonite in a maybe harder than he's ever been hit with kryptonite before or something like that.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah. You're juggling like 3 artists for fill-in pages, which usually means that they had to rush something.
Yeah. And there's just one page that's just like bam, 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 bam. And it just says bam, bam, bam. It doesn't show what he's doing. And then it cuts away and Superboy slams the helmet on the chained. And so they've captured him. And then it just cuts to Superman looking like he's on his way to death and just radiating green, which takes us to that page that if you scroll back up, you can kind of see where he's being suspended. And I guess he's being shot with a lot of red sun to try to heal him or something. Or yellow sun. What am I saying? Not red sun.
Yeah, that would be the bad one. So before we jump into some of those details, and these are all good things to talk about, let's give a brief kind of synopsis. Last time on Superman, and then this time on Superman. So I'll do the last time. Last time on Superman, Superman fought the Chained, which is the new villain that Williamson has introduced, who's got tactile telekinesis off the scale, essentially, which almost functions like regular telekinesis.
Right.
So we Superman won that fight with some help from Superboy and Supercore. And Lex Luthor's family came into town, and Lex Luthor is again still facing the ghosts from his past, and that's kind of the major arc going on right now.
Right. And Lex has established Supercorp in place of LexCorp. That they changed the L building, has a big super shield on the top, and Superman doesn't know whether to trust it. And he's like, do I trust it? Do I not trust it? Is this just going to be all? At some point, this is going to take a whole twist, and this is all but some big plot from Lex. But Lex is supposedly helping even while in prison, and they kind of talk off screen. He has a communications with Lex from time to time, and I don't really follow what happened before this series started that put Lex where he is, and what we've been talking about since we started reviewing this is, how this book kind of gets you in to, what you need to know. We're sitting where we are.
We're just doing a synopsis.
Yeah, and this series basically tells you just what you need to know to go forward. And I've been kind of lost sometimes as to what the history is because history's been redone so many times. I know that Superman, and it's important to this issue, so I'm just going to bring this up. At some point, Superman just said, "I am Clark Kent," and the whole world knew. And then at some point that got removed. And there's a mention in here of a Lex mind bomb. So whether Lex knows that Superman is Clark Kent is a question to me, but Mercy knows. So why wouldn't Lex know himself? So I'm guessing that he knows that Superman is Clark Kent, but I could have sworn there was some situation where he didn't know. I don't know. It's I really wish for a Secret Origins sort of catch you up type book that DC was putting out that would kind of recap everything you need to know about Superman or Lex Luthor or whomever. But anyway, yeah, this is the start of a new story arc beginning from Superman's incapacitation after the vicious beating, and he's got all this. He's impregnated with kryptonite. I assume they've taken it out, but it's taken a long time to heal. And go ahead, Matt. You can start from there. We just kind of recapped and got back to where we are.
Yeah, also, Fizchozo's in the chat. Good to see you. I've effectively killed the show with our Superman reading. I apologize, but I'm having fun talking about Superman, so
Well, no, it's fine. I mean, like, oh my gosh, hang on.
Go ahead.
Oh,
sounds like a Metal Gear Solid codec call.
Yeah.
So this issue, we do get a resurgence, or we resume the conflict between the I think two of the major other new villains for this arc, which is Mr. Graft and Dr. Farm. These are the villains who have a history with Lex Luthor specifically, and they have in this series, what they've been doing is remixing the rogues gallery of Superman with their powers and putting twists on things, which has been led to some interesting situations. So that's kind of the overall pitch of what's going on in this issue. So
I do have a question about the cover. Could you go back to the cover? Would you mind for just a second?
Yeah, that's fine. Right.
Is this Farm or Graft? I can't remember.
That's Graft. That's Graft.
That's okay. That's Graft. So the kryptonite claws. This is one of those cases where I don't even know the status of kryptonite. Yellow kryptonite was always the one that robs a Kryptonian of their powers forever. Red has weird effects on you. Blue only affects Bizarro, and green is normal. And so the multicolored claws, I don't even know what the point is, because
so that's from the earlier issue. From the earlier issue, he was using the claw to essentially mess with the rogues gallery. Mm-hmm. And so it's the implication that I got from it is that he's using all the different types of kryptonite experimentally until it's like, oh, hey, if I use this one on Silver Banshee, it does this to her powers. I use this one on Parasite, it did this to his powers. And so that's essentially, it's the mutagenic, this character, or this pair of characters, Mr. Graft and Dr. Farm, are using kryptonite specifically to mutate and find new ways of amping up Superman villains, essentially.
Okay.
So that's and Mr. Graft specifically has the claw, the kryptonite claw. It's kind of, I think, his sub code name. One of the issues on the front cover said, your kryptonite claw, and that's kind of his motif, essentially.
Yeah. And I'm not sure what the point. I mean, it sounds cool and it looks cool, but when you think about what it does, it's like if he gets hit with yellow, his powers are done. Although I'm not sure that's ever been established post-crisis. So, it used to be there was just green for a very long time, and then they kind of went back to the Silver Age multicolored stuff. But I don't know.
There was also there was briefly the black one, which made you, which split you into an evil personality. I remember that with a Supergirl story. So I don't know what the current rule is here. I think for the purposes of our story, it's mostly supposed to be that the different colors are going to have weird effects on stuff.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the gold one does not function in the
classic
way. Otherwise, he would have just zapped Superman with it and it would be over. The fight would have been done. So I'm pretty sure it's functioning differently here. So we have Superman in trouble. I do want to point out that emotionally, And I think this is, again, a strength that Williamson has. Williamson hits the emotional beats pretty well. So at the very beginning, we have Superman basically in recovery, and Lois Lane is actually, she's choking up a little bit as she reads these recovery letters. She's very clearly worried about her husband. And it's kind of neat to see, because like Lois sometimes gets portrayed, she gets reduced sometimes to being tough girl. And it's sometimes you can forget the fact that she has mourned for Superman. She's mourned for, or she's been worried for Clark and Superman. And so it's good to see this this other side of Lois. So I liked that. That was a nice moment.
Yeah. I'm just responding to Fizchozo in the chat there.
Right. The whatever happened to the Man of Tomorrow.
It was the very last Bronze Age Superman story featured gold prominently. I was going to say that, and I didn't want to keep us from getting on with the story, but there you go. And I gotta say, Redondo's art is just beautiful. He's good with expressions. I love that first panel. And I was thinking that this was like, oh, they're doing Metropolis Mailbag, and then you turn the page, she's reading to her husband, and I was like, how did she get in? How is she in there with him, and nobody sees that they're like together? And of course that plays in later when Mercy does come in, but I don't want to jump ahead.
Since you brought up Redondo, I was not as big of a fan. I think you're onto something. I think that they're the emotions are good. So like the faces are pretty good, and that's something like there's certain superhero artists who just don't do faces well. So this guy I think does halfway decent. There was something that looked traced on some of those faces though I didn't like. I could be wrong on that. The other thing I didn't like about Redondo was when it got to the some faces look okay. Some of them, like that Lex face, I didn't particularly like. That didn't look particularly. He looks too brutish.
Why does Lex look so much older than his mother?
You know what? That's just plastic surgery these days. His mom is a lot older than she looks.
Yeah, it could be.
She's got the money for plastic surgery. She's going to look like that until she dies.
She's had the work done.
So the other thing I was going to say about Redondo is that there were some backgrounds that I did not like. I just didn't like the background work. It was so plain and sparse, and it almost reminded me of the accusations people have leveled at Eric July's artist for Isom, where it's like, you clearly just pulled some 3D assets and you've done bare minimum effort to imply sci-fi. So I don't know. I that was a bit of a miss for me. There were a couple of shots of Superman that looked good, so I will give him that. And I guess when you are trying to do a Superman book, they are going to definitely look at how well you draw Superman, and that's going to be where you put your budget for art in terms of your time. How well am I drawing Superman?
Yeah. So since I had to dip out there, I wanted to interrupt to talk about how like the first couple pages like just got me just zinged right in the old heart. I'm sitting there. And I'm trying to read really fast, and I had to slow down and go back and reread the letter. And then I'm just like, oh, he saves a dog. And I'm not even a dog person, but I know how kids love their dogs, right? So like that got me, and I was happy. And then he went on, and it just like the story gets like more tearjerkery as it goes. And I'm just like, shut up, you're crying. And that really. And then when Lois and Clark like embrace, when Clark gets out of the thing and the husband and wife embrace, and I almost lost it. I was
we just talked about that. I think Williamson. That's one. I think he's the best. I think his best strength is the emotional beats. I think he's a little weaker at some of the action beats, which is a little sad for me because it's come on, action comics, right? Hit me with the action. But it is good that he's bringing the emotional resonance. And I think he clearly knows that he's good at that because he seems to work it into a lot of the characters. He's worked it in now into Lex a bit. He's trying to work it into, I think, Brainiac even a smidge. So like he's very clearly a storyteller who works in the emotional aspects. And I think he's leaning into that with this series.
I need to mention something. If you look at the page, and I think this might go up a bit, when Lois is looking at him suspended there and all those mailbags are hanging there. And then the next page, yeah, there you go. Look, hold on there. In that first panel, you notice those letters. First of all, I was thinking, who sends letters these days? What little 10-year-old kid is writing a letter by hand? But, it isn't as meaningful to hold up a tablet and say, we have 10,000 letters for you. I get that. So notice that in Metropolis, all you have to do is say to Superman, and you don't put an address on it. You do have to put a stamp on it, but they know where to send them. They just put them in a place that Superman picks up, or in this case, Lois has picked them up. And so there's no attempt to put an address on any of those letters. I just think that's cool. It's like writing to Santa.
Yeah.
Superman,
Oh, exactly.
And the post office knows what to do with them.
Definitely.
They're like handwritten letters, and they go to Superman. Oh, shit.
I could see them even though we live in the digital age, I could still see because like they do that thing where Perry White puts his campaign on hold. We're all going to be supporting Superman. I could see them going, hey, write a letter to Superman, kids, and we'll find a way to get it to him in part. Yeah. So that's not too much of a stretch for me. But
right. And I didn't even question it. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a fossil here, but I'm just like, well, of course there's giant stacks of mail for Superman. Why wouldn't there be? Obviously.
But I do love those panels. That is a good page.
And that whole sequence.
Maybe he's lacking in backgrounds, but he's really good at drawing characters. I mean, that sequence with Lois getting her breath, and I mean, it's very good artist capturing, a woman trying to hold into her emotions. Mm-hmm. I think he's really good at people. I'll say that right now. You can complain what you want about backgrounds or whatever, and you may be right. I'm sure that there's some stuff that, although the top of the Man of Steel thing where he's on the building and there's all those buildings under construction in the background.
That was a good shot. I think the one that really I just went ick to was where is it? It's with Jimmy Olsen. It was this page here.
Oh.
And I was just like, I don't know. This was the one that screamed to me. I don't know. Just like I didn't like it. I was like something about how he's doing the background work. I'm not a fan. It looks very heavily computer sourced. Like the bottom left hand panel looks like I'm using 3D assets.
Yeah, it looks like a Clip Studio asset.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm not always. I read a lot of manga. I read a lot of trash manga, and there's a lot of trash manga that will just transparently lean into this. So I'm not saying you can never do it, but I don't know. I kind of want something more for my Superman book. I'll just
okay.
We can move on, and that's fine. I'm just saying.
Sure.
Okay, so plot point here: Superman and Lois, they're having their moment. Superman's recovering, and Jimmy calls up in an absolute mad panic, and he's like, "Lois, nobody knows what to do." And Lois is like, well, Clark and I are having some us time, and we're just
at the beach.
Yeah, you can't do that when you're the editor. She's having trouble getting out of being a reporter.
It's happy couple things, and Jimmy, you just take care of it, right? And I have a thing I want to say about this. Like when she says that, who's in charge? You're in charge, Jimmy, and then she's masking all this horrible emotion she's in, of course. But for me, I'm just like, no. That's perfect. That's actually what I want to see. We were talking about how Lois was such a good fit for being the chief, but we just didn't want that job. Mm-hmm. But I think Jimmy Olsen should be the editor-in-chief of the Daily Planet.
Well, he is in The Dark Knight Returns. So
I think
it's not. No, at least temporarily, I'm definitely interested in seeing some and then especially with him dating Silver Banshee, like
right.
There's some dynamics you could have fun with.
The thing is, okay, so if you're gonna have Dick Grayson become Nightwing, right? Mm-hmm. If you're gonna have Wally West become Flash, I want to see Jimmy get that kind of respect of having a chance to have a real adult relationship, having a real adult interaction, to take some stakes, to gain some mastery,
Sure.
To not be a joke, to still be funny, but not be a joke. And I think that this is the perfect time for him. That is the vehicle, right?
No matter how it turns out, I'd like to see
how
what
it turns
happens
out.
To him.
Yeah, no, yeah, I agree. No, I'm with, yeah,
I would almost buy this
He's a
book
photographer.
just for that storyline.
Yeah. I think it's saying a lot about her that she's, first of all, a newspaper has assistant editors. They have if the editor falls over, who's in charge. They know that,
Yes,
That's
this is for us.
Yeah, this is drama that isn't really reflective of reality. They would be able to carry on for the most part, but but her putting him in charge when he's way down on the totem pole is a funny decision. So I like that. Yeah.
It is, but he's also had this. He's been. I mean, like, if you take the regular timeline, Jimmy Olsen's been working at the paper as a copy boy, as a photographer for like more than a decade.
Yeah.
He's always part of the inner circle, and so
he's watched the sausage get made since he was a kid. This is the guy. He just doesn't know it yet.
Yeah. I think she could have come up with a better excuse than we need vacation time. That's and not scheduled.
Well, she does say it's there's that Williamson's trying to be clever here with the we needed sun.
Yeah.
I didn't pick up on that.
Yeah, a
few days in the sun. Ha ha ha.
I didn't pick up on that. I feel embarrassed.
which is fine. I guess it's workable. I'm less bothered by this than a couple of the other little things that Williamson often kind of, I think, missteps when he's doing the action scenes. Those are the moments where I'm like, come on, do a little better.
There was one real groan moment in this comic that we'll get to later that I was just like,
so Superman ends up saying that he knows who's the next target, and the next target's going to be our Maryland Moonlight. And
can we not skip so far ahead, because it's kind of important. What you're skipping past is the armor thing and the discussion.
That's next.
That's we're getting to that next page.
Okay, as long as we don't. Okay.
Yeah, we're not skipping that.
Not skip it. Yeah.
So basically, our next mission, and I'm not entirely certain why Superman knows that Maryland Moonlight is next. That was a little. I don't know if that was very well communicated.
Yeah, I know where it came from, because that was one thing that I had noticed in reading issue 7, or 8. I
think it was 8 where it
was in 8 where there was a big fight, and the Chained goes down this list of the people that they affected, and I don't know how the Chained is supposed to have known that, but he did, and of the people that Lex screwed over, and the next on the list was Maryland Moonlight.
Can I just make sure she is a new character created for this series, right? She's not.
She's new.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which I have some mixed feelings about the end of this issue with that, but Anyway.
But it's just one of those. Hey, I've debuted this new character, and by the way, this is a well-established character who's been here all the time.
Well, sort of. She's been in the background. When they first introduced her early on, they kind of got the impression that she'd been just scoping.
When I say
out.
All the time, I mean forever. She's been she's a forever fixture in Metropolis, just never mentioned up till now.
But nobody had noticed her until recently. Yeah. She's finally decided to come out of her hiatus or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, it's a little bit like that. But she's
it's not okay, here on the list of that, do you think that it's more atrocious, Maryland Moonlight having been here for 100+ years and nobody noticed, or do you think that the Court of Owls, which do you think is a more egregious insult to your intelligence?
That's what it reminds me of, the Court of Owls. Yeah. Yes, the Court of Owls is everywhere and has always been a fixture. Yeah.
I kind of like the Court of Owls.
Well, you can like the Court of Owls as a concept and think that its place in its history is stupid, right? Like the fact that they didn't say, okay, no, we're going to slide this in between the events of Long Halloween No. We're going to do this in Batman year 12. That it's always existed.
Yeah.
But
So, okay, sure, Scott.
I'm not saying I like everything about the Court of Owls. But the idea of it is
The idea of it
is very appealing to me. It's super. It's Batman takes on the deep state. Super the Illuminati.
There are lots of secret society things.
Right.
There's lots of fun to be had in there, but it was one of those things where, okay, you're putting this in year 12. No, screw you guys. Yeah. It's like when they did the Batman 1000, and Batman at the peak of his career, after he'd been the world's greatest detective for a dozen plus years, suddenly he discovers the end of this mystery that he's been seeking for 12 years, and it takes him to the great detective club where Detective Chimp is there, and Ralph Dibny is there, and I mean, like every other DC detective is already part of the club, but Batman, the world's greatest detective, it took him 12 years to follow the clues across the planet. Screw you guys. God damn it.
Oh, well.
I mean,
back to Superman. We can't let Batman derail our Superman discussion.
I'm sorry.
That's what this reminds me of is the Court of Owls type thing, where you're introducing a new character and suddenly it's very prominent. And this, by the way, this character has always been here in Metropolis. Yeah. And so, why are we all of a sudden focusing on her? But he pointed out that the Chained had specifically mentioned her. So that's why.
Yeah. Well, and one thing, and the reason I have a lot more forgiveness for this character is that it's one ghost, right?
Yeah.
She's some sort of ethereal ghost being, and there's one of her. So it's a lot easier for me to imagine that this one person has been hiding out,
slip through the cracks, as opposed to an entire shadow government,
an entire secret society that everybody but you knows about when you're supposed to know these things. Yeah. By the way, your parents were involved.
I'd like to know a tiny bit more about her. What is it that everybody knows about her, thinks about her? It's just all of a sudden getting to this.
So I think, like I said, they've been the Annual did this a little bit. They fleshed her out a teensy bit more. Cat Grant Grant's interviewing her. So they've been dropping. Williamson's been seeding, planting little seeds of her throughout the series and its supplements.
And I didn't see the Annual, so okay.
I'm not saying we have a whole lot to go on, but there's been little bits. Okay. Let's talk about this little moment of Superman putting on the Lex armor, which is interesting. The idea here is that this is going to be the one suit to protect him from further kryptonite poisoning, because if he gets any more, he's definitely dead, which I kind of like. I like that. I like raising the stakes for Superman. It's kind of cool to put him not in a super vulnerable position, but something where it's like, hey, you're in recovery. You're not fully recovered. We're going to put you in this suit. It's an opportunity to put him in a cool looking suit. So I kind of liked the basic pitch of that. There was a moment I cringed later when
I think you and me may be on the same brain wavelength here.
Probably.
Well, let's talk about it when it happens.
Let's get to that.
Okay.
And it's going to come.
In delicious anticipation for.
It comes pretty shortly, because basically we get introduced to Marilyn Moonlight, and then immediately it's surprise.
Yeah.
Okay. I gotta stop for a second. When I was reading this, boss fight just pops up out of there. That's great. But I just noticed something in when you were scrolled, and I had to look at this panel several times to try to understand what I was seeing, and I only now understood. So Marilyn in that panel 1 there, I thought she was sitting crouched on, as though she was sitting in a chair on the edge of the thing. And I was just like, why is she squatting on the edge of that parapet?
That's a tangent. That's a bad tangent.
Yeah, but what it is because obviously I can see now that she's standing with one leg up and one leg down. And that perfectly makes sense now that I see it this way. But for some reason, I looked at it 2 and 3 times, and I was like, I don't understand what I'm seeing. Move on.
That's because, okay, so again, this is why you got to pay more attention to the backgrounds. So because he's being a little more slapdash with the backgrounds, what's created here, they call it a tangent. It's essentially where 2 lines intersect, And in comic book artwork specifically, it's something that, and I'm not an authority on this, but the general knowledge that I have on it is that you want to be very careful about when lines like this intersect, because it can cause confusion for the reader. Because if you look at the top tier, it looks like Marilyn Monroe is sitting on a building that is like a mile behind her.
Monroe?
Marilyn Moonlight.
Building, but I was like, is she supposed to be sitting on the building? Is she squatting in the air?
Right, exactly.
I went back a couple pages, and she's riding on the light horse. And I'm like, well, there's no light chair. So I don't know.
Right. So Marilyn Moonlow, which which totally works. So that's the problem with tangent. So for those of you who are aspiring artists, this is one of the reasons why you got to be careful of where your lines meet, because it can cause real artistic compositional issues.
Yeah.
It's even worse.
I was mistaking her knee for her ankle.
But it's even worse if you scroll down to the previous panel on the bottom of the previous page. She's got her left knee up on something, and then it switches to like, this is like a zoom out shot, right? Except now that's not how she's standing. Unless is she kneeling with both legs? I think she is. It just looks very weird because it does look like she's sitting. I'm kind of okay because like I'm okay with saying, oh, between these two panels her leg is shifted. That doesn't bug me too much. For some people, they want a continuity of that leg being the same leg that would be brought forth, but she's clearly reacting to something, so she's clearly in movement. But the point remains that, especially if you're dealing with a character who's in all black, there's going to be some, because like you could read that last bottom right hand panel, and if you're reading quickly, you won't even notice that that's her leg. You would just be like. You would just read that as her torso and go, I don't know what's going on with the shading there.
The other thing that could have helped this thing from an aesthetic perspective, because like Graft seems to have floated because he's level with a parapet, which is her knee, right? But it should be, you should be seeing the top of his knees and only the top half of the wheels on his wheelchair. Okay,
I'm telling you, this is 3D backgrounds. This is what happens when you work with 3D. When you work with the 3D assets, these are the problems, because everyone who has criticized ISOM and has brought up these issues, it's exactly the same problems.
Yeah, well, I mean, but that's in the foreground that problem is there, but
yeah.
I'm just talking about the general issue of just like working.
And it could be not thinking it through three-dimensionally because you're not drawing the background. That could be a brain issue as opposed to that. But
if she
doesn't spend enough time on rooftops.
Listen, if she arrived on the rooftop,
climb ladders.
If she arrived on the rooftop, how did the handicapped person in the wheelchair sneak up on the ghost and just suddenly appear right next to her and she didn't know about it? It's just, you think about what you aren't seeing because she's just suddenly standing there and then somebody's surprising her, and it's not somebody who can just, it's not Batman.
Yeah, the wheelchair does fly. We've seen that.
I get that.
And I'm assuming because of how he gets around, Williamson has probably not, again, this is to Hutch's point, Williamson could probably put a little more effort into this is where I start criticizing, where it's like, hey, you have this cool, it's like Williamson plots the moment and then doesn't really think about how he got there. He's like, he wanted this moment to happen.
Right.
And there's enough in the toolbox here, because like this guy's got super science. We see this in 2 panels. The chair is like a full armored battle unit. He probably has short range teleportation. It's probably
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Probably totally easy for him to zip over there. And he's clearly got a flair for the dramatic. So it's not just about practicality. He's doing this to taunt. He's doing this to rub salt in the wound. He's that type of villain. I'm okay with those aspects. But sometimes, and we had the same issue with the Chained, there were certain details where it's like, I want to know more about how this character is interacting with the world. It's your job as the writer to tell me, and you don't have to like do it in a boring didactic way, but you need to put a little bit more into it than you're putting into it now, because it's not a movie. You can't just assume that I'm watching a movie on the comic book page. Put a little more of those details in.
The other thing I want to point out is the bottom of this page. We scroll down past the gun drawn panel, which is I love that panel. It's amazing. Marilyn is such a great character, visual character. But he jumps from looking like Weird Al to looking like Ozzy Osbourne, and I'm okay with that.
Okay.
I was looking at these panels and thinking how they're very clearly going for an androgynous look, because half the time I'm looking at this, they keep saying Mr., but I swear that's a woman. But they're, is that like part of his, that he's been experimented on so much or something? You don't know.
He definitely has mommy issues.
Yeah.
So I think that may be part of that whole aspect.
I'm gonna say that there's something about, because Dr. Graft looks more stereotypical mad scientist. He's got the lab coat. He's got like a gas mask essentially.
Mm-hmm.
A respirator. He's got a respirator. Mr. Graft being like, I'm gonna go like, so we have a pair of mad scientists, and so to play them off each other, one of them looks a little more traditional, and the other one's just going to be like, I'm going to go for the full rock star look.
Yeah,
looks like a Tim Curry from Rocky Horror.
Right.
Yeah,
that's in the mix as well.
Oh gosh, yeah. But I'm like, I'm surprisingly okay with it.
I'm just saying it. There's the more womany spectacles, the nails, the big hair, and the lipstick. He's clearly going for a thing. Yeah.
he's going for like I'm a member of Kiss without the white makeup on. So Gene, was it Gene Simmons is the the big one, with the tongue.
I mean, you've also got the Iggy Pop kind of energy too. But anyway, moving on. So the on with the story thing. So Marilyn is accosted by Graft here and says says, Graft says, you've had a history with the Metropolis as long as we have, right? And that seems weird. So I'll just tuck that away for a minute.
Yeah.
Because that's a whole thing. So then the next page, we got to show the next page. I know we don't want to show every page, but the next page is just pure comic book drama. I mean, that's just straight action with this whole thing.
Yeah.
I love the bold. I love the dynamic. I love the boom.
No, that's a good landing.
It's such a good landing, right?
It's also a very something that I was noticing. You remember how we were talking about how Marilyn Moonlight changed between one panel and the other, and everything is static. That's one of the problems with these cinematic takes, is that there are no movement lines anymore. There's just static shots, as if you've taken a picture out of a film.
Right.
And that's why you don't see like a movement line indicating her leg moved downward or anything like that, where she's reacting to the person suddenly appearing behind her. There's nothing indicating this limb is moving this way, this limb is moving that way. But here you've got the typical comic book star impact,
which is good. It functions well. Yeah, and Superman's cape coming down.
Yeah. I'm just saying, this is lacking everywhere else.
Good point. Yeah,
that's worth noting.
I want to bring up the rooftop again. You'll notice that because he's using like a 3D asset. Notice where they're all like on a rooftop,
on the parapet.
Yeah. There would be like a ledge, and you'd be like at least 6 inches to a foot, but they're like all standing.
Oh, usually these big buildings like this, a facade like this will be like 1.5 feet. It's well enough for you to even more, because they want to be not a trip hazard at the front of these buildings.
Right. So anyway, that's fine. I'm okay. It's technically a goof. I can overlook it. That the composition here.
I didn't think about it until we were going through it again.
He's also doing no damage to the roof, despite the boom, and it's being Superman coming down with his knee onto the roof. But he's very careful to not make the slightest dent.
He has his total control.
Yeah.
Total control.
Smack.
I'm okay with that too.
Graft back.
He's cushioning so like I'm imagining that basically Superman does some of his landings like with air brakes essentially. So like he's using like some sort of like air to like cushion to like, so you still get some sort of shockwave, but he's not like, because otherwise he'd go straight through the building like 11 floors and like a meteor. Abigail's in the chat. My knee. Yeah. Like that. Yeah, exactly. Cartoonicus says, yay, superhero landing. They're always a good. And this is honestly, this is a decent one because Superman is also, I'll give credit to Diondo here and Williamson because Superman's superhero landing is also doing a storytelling bit here because it's not just Superman going, I'm big and tough doing a superhero landing. The position of the arms shows I'm trying to put a stop to a fight. I'm trying to prevent further violence and put myself in between the two combatants, which is a very Superman thing to do. I love it.
Even despite the weird art goofs, the little silliness, this is a great comic page. This is great, a comic art.
Yeah. So good job.
So I can't even be mad about these guys never having built anything because I got to say this is such a good page.
Good job. A+. So good shot. And like I said, it's good when your art is dynamic and then also reinforces character, which is what we're doing here. So good job. And then I do want
it's my favorite line.
Which one?
It took a few moments, but you are wearing his uniform. Lex must be impressed. And then off screen, I'm not.
Yeah, the amount of nonplus that Lex has in these interpages is really fun.
Yeah, I just hear Clancy Brown's voice whenever I read Lex now.
And it's great because Lex opens the page just says, "Did you really reconnect us just so I could hear you show off?"
Yeah. So Cartoonicus would love that because he loves good Lex moments.
Yeah.
But Lex is all business. He's like, take that guy out now.
And he's right. He's right. Take that out now.
Well, and here's how he's going to take him out, right?
That's the next page.
Oh, that's the next page.
That's the next page. Okay, that's the moment I think both you and I are on the same page.
I've been waiting.
But before we do this, before we get to the plot point, I want to talk about this artistically. I love this spread because it manages to have a very nice top tier strip that is cinematic. We have Diondo here. I think Diondo is pretty good at some of the layouts. I'm going to give him credit there because this layout has a cinematic strip at the top, which gives play to the kids who want the cinematic. But then it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It has 12 panels and does a lot of action. So it's almost like an entire action scene in this double page spread. I love pages like this because you end up
and the 12. The other thing about the 12 panels is with the 12 panel layout. I mean, how many times do we get shortchanged on everything that goes into a comic? Not enough art, not enough words, not enough backgrounds, not enough flow, everything. But I think they really do a good job of maximizing each of those elements in this layout for this action scene. I was really impressed.
It's pretty darn good, and the fact that there's even some dynamism with the overlap in the bottom right tier, just the little tricks being used at times. I really did enjoy this from an action point. Okay, Reese, tell us the thing that the groan. Tell us the groan.
So here's the thing. Lex says activate the EMP built into the suit. It will shock Graft while shutting the system down. Now, for you guys out there at home, an electromagnetic pulse, right? We experience them every time we turn on fluorescent lights, every time we turn on a microwave. They're super common. They're relatively not harmful to human beings, right? And they kill electronics, specifically electronics that are transistor based, right? Lex says, disable his electronics. The guy's dependent on his technology, just do it.
Yeah.
Superman says, I removed that. This shoot should protect me, not hurt others.
We're back into the gun smashing again. It's a gun, I don't like it, smash. Oh, I could have used that. It's just
an EMP would not hurt Graft.
Right.
So I'm on the fence on this one a little bit. Let me.
So what does he do? And so then what does he do? Right? He physically smashes.
Right. Yeah. Let me punch you a bunch.
There is no way the level of forceful disassembly of his machine wouldn't like puncture his soft organs in that guy's thorax.
Right.
All right, so let me give a couple. Let me try to defend this.
Cannon.
I'm going to try to defend this. Okay, let me see if I can mount a defense here. First off, an EMP that Lex would install in a suit like this would be the type of EMP that would hurt somebody. If anyone's seen, I'm sure we've all seen Ocean's 11, and the guy has the super powerful one, and it's like if you're close to this one, it could cause some issues. And like Lex would have a weaponized EMP.
Yeah. What is the range on it? It might hurt other people.
Right. Yeah. So and Lex wouldn't be caring about that when he built it. So I'm like, so Superman being like, I don't trust a weaponized EMP that Lex built. I could make an argument there. I'm sure there's a counter argument to that point, but still,
As still had with the pacemaker. I understand.
Yeah. So there's
right.
Yeah. Okay, there you go. So there's that. Secondly, and this is the one that it plays, I guess, into the thematics of it. Superman is as much about doing the right thing is also like the symbol, right? Because in theory, right, Superman could fly around in an Iron Man suit constantly with tools. He's like, I don't need them. I have my powers. And secondly, I want to inspire human beings to be more human and less not. And so I think that's one of the reasons why Superman doesn't fly around with weapons. Not just from a stylistic standpoint. I think that's how they kind of partly like work that into his character. He doesn't want to be known as the character who uses weapons most of the time. I know there are exceptions to this, but I think that by and large, it plays into the thematics of I want to be an inspirational figure. Now, again, there are counter arguments to this. It's like, what about the fact that he's basically got 2 laser beams in his eyes? I know, but there's this aesthetic idea that once you start being Superman who carries weapons on his toolkit, it's something that just doesn't work with the character. Yeah. So
he knows how he's seen by everybody, and if he's telling all the kids of America, "Hey, look at all the big guns I carry around all the time," they'd be saying, "Well, why can't I have one?" So it's how he knows that he's seen a certain way, and he doesn't want to be seen carrying a big gun.
Well, you can, kids. It's called the First Amendment.
It's called the Second Amendment.
You're right too.
Anyway,
but that's I get what Twitless is saying, is that Superman knows how he's seen, and for that reason doesn't want to be the guy resorting to this kind of stuff. Although yes, he is brutally ripping apart a guy
right
because he didn't want to use an EMP.
So I do want to bring apart. I do want to bring up. I think that again, a brief editing pass, you could tweak this line maybe just a smidge to make it work a little bit better.
Yeah.
So I think again, what Williamson is going for is fine. I think again, the way it's currently written is like, really. There's a second moment I want to bring up, and it's I don't want to spoil any more pages at this point, but after Superman clearly gets the upper hand in this fight. Surprise. But there's a line. Graft says something like, I think it might be on this page. Graft says, "Are you sure this is wise?" Yeah, bottom left here. Are you sure this is wise, Superman? The tiniest crack in your armor could let in my kryptonite. So again, are you sure you want to do this? One crack and you're done. And then Superman, gets the upper hand. And then Graft says, "Oh, you misunderstand me. Actually, I just need to be able to zap Marilyn Monroe with my kryptonite claw and to win this fight." And it's like, so Williamson again wanted to have that sort of like twist moment in the dialogue. The setup doesn't work.
Yeah.
Because it's like saying, "Oh, you misunderstood me." He's clearly talking about Superman. He says, "One crack in your armor and I'll get you." And then he turns around and says, "Well, actually, I was talking about Marilyn Monroe." And it's like, no, you don't get to have it that way. Again, it's what Williamson's. It's like Williamson's destinations are all good destinations, but he needs to work on how he gets to that destination in his writing, because he's taking these little shortcuts and they're leading to some sloppy moments. And I'm saying this as someone who's enjoying the book, but as a point of constructive criticism, I think this is something that after reading like almost 10 issues, I can definitely it starts to come to the surface. This is an issue. And I think Williamson should work on it. Your destinations, where you end up in the story, these are good points. These are all, I like the destinations, but how you get me to those destination points is, I wouldn't say it's just as important, but it's very important as the destination itself. You can't just overlook it and say, hey, well, I got you to this cool moment. You know, it doesn't matter how I got you there.
We've said several times, this all just needs another editing pass. You know, there's the stuff like, you have a better explanation for the EMP. You have a better explanation for the removal or the smashing of the gun, you know, in that other issue. And the way the EMP is just like the, you know, immediately smashing a gun that could have been useful. You know, this is like the second time he's done this sort of stuff. And these are faults in his writing, which is not to say that he's a bad writer. We're enjoying so much of this, and then you hit one of these stumbling blocks. And that just comes out of nowhere, where he's like, actually, I was trying to get Marilyn Moonlight. And it's like, no, you weren't. You're trying to attack. Like, by the way, Superman is not wearing a face shield, so I don't know. It would be nice if there was like a glass helmet, you know, over it, which the traditional Lex Luthor armor from the 80s had, you know, a big dome or something like that, because there's nothing shielding him from the radiation from his face. So
that's a good point.
But I don't think we should spoil anymore, because there's some good stuff where the story goes. And I'm hearing a weird beep beep. I don't know what that was, but
no, I got a text message.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Anyway,
let's just say it goes off the rails. Ha 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 ha.
That joke's real funny for those of us who finished the book. I got so much to say about that, but I guess we'll have to wait on that till next week.
I think we'll have to wait till we get to the next issue.
This is very much reminiscent of the Toyman battle from that Justice League episode, though. You know, where it's like, is this even intentional, or it's just a side thing? It makes sense if you read it. I won't spoil anymore, but that's what it reminded me of immediately.
It's also Superman Time After Time a little bit.
Yeah. But we did skip over something that you said we weren't going to skip over. You don't have to show it, but when Mercy walks in and she says, "Oh, by the way, other people get suspicious," and you said we weren't going to skip it, and then you went boom right past it.
It's right here. So
it's the problem is, I don't know what happened with the whole Clark's identity is out and then it's been wiped. But
all right, so if I can though,
go ahead.
We do have the return of in the past couple of issues, we had been complaining a little bit about, hey, where are my editorial boxes? Look, they brought them back. They're making a comeback. As if you could forget Action Comics 1050. If you want the answer to this, here's the issue. Go get it. And I'm like, all right. This is classic comics. I'm okay with that. If you know, it's
I love that.
Yeah.
So did you read 1050?
I did.
No, I did not.
No, okay.
I started. I can go back and check. I think I started Action Comics. I was trying to catch up around 10. I started picking them up around 1055, 1057. So I'd have to go back a few more back from that.
Which is fine. I was just being a turd.
I don't know. Does Lex know who Clark is? That Superman is Clark Kent? I don't know the status of that. It's bugging me.
No. I think what she's saying there is that he does.
He definitely knows who is.
Yeah.
The only question is, did he know? Does he know from their Smallville days? Because they have Smallville days again.
Yeah. Which again is like, I don't know what the status is of any of that stuff, but I did like Lena Luthor going to work for Supercorp, and she finds the representation of her dad who says, "I can answer any question you have," and she's like, "Oh, really?" And that's like, "Oh, what's she going to find out?" You know, that's a great, what a good panel. That just
that whole page was really great.
I want to see more of that.
I do want to definitely see more of that.
And I like that they said the chain. They called him Sam Stryker. I mean, the chained. It's like, you don't have to use his. You're really trying to coin this into something.
So here's the funny thing about that. Like that I actually appreciated. I groaned a little bit just because they didn't do that in previous issues.
Yeah.
But like,
who is that guy up there? If you just started with this issue, you don't know.
That's the way that that comics are supposed to be. So like,
right.
Like we're every Flashpoint comic is somebody's first comic. We're
Mhm.
introducing those things in little ways, naturally in the dialogue, so people can understand it. Lex says, "Oh, even in that near about time, Lex says, oh, you left my daughter here? Yes, Lena would never does what I tell her." So,
Right. And there's a lot of that is really good. It's just
the crazy thing is this comic we've been going through, loving the story, but nitpicking these little things, right?
Yeah.
And then here it is, issue 9, and I know that like this was written way before we started this series, right? So it's just crazy that after all this time, these months that we've been going through this and picking these little things out, all of a sudden they start showing up in this issue as though we called them into existence.
A couple, I think, a little.
Well, I know we didn't.
No, but I think it speaks to the quality of some of our criticisms, because there's some level of feedback that happens with comic book creation. So like they may have been some feedback that a creator got from somewhere, not us, but let's put a little this, that, and
look at panel 4 over there. We were talking about, does Mercy have a robot arm in this reality? And I'm wondering, she's like projecting things with her fingers, and
she's definitely a robot.
No, she's not. No, there, you get to see it in a couple. I think it's in this series, but it's definitely in the supplement. I think it's in the supplement. Yeah, she's basically, they went with the cyborg version of her.
Right, but they don't establish that. That's the problem. It's like there's subtle little stuff here and there if you're looking for it, but
and that's like one of those things where, like, in previous issues they didn't say, "Oh, is Mercy my cyborg sidekick?" I half expect to find that on page 7 of the next issue. We're based on the stuff we've seen in this issue, where they're doing some of those little editorial things. I half expect it to come up,
I would have just had somewhere a panel where she's really obviously doing something with her hand that is
issue 2 of this series. It's basically like some sort of nanotechnology you see, and she's clearly it's taking over her body. It's the clues are there.
Yeah. What is I'm sorry, I'm reading. Cartoonicus commented on this.
The plot armor equals FaceTime.
I don't know what that means.
What he's saying is that plot armor means that you can go with your face uncovered, and that's a trope for. Yeah, it's basically it's why does Batman not have his full face mask and let his bottom chin get that kind of thing
warm, get cold. Actually, I think that has more to do with I don't want to get into it. Well, I think that's good. We're talking about needing to wrap the show a little quick tonight. We're just shy of an hour. We've hit all of the stuff we're going to talk about today. Oh man, though, next week this issue is crazy. Can we at least say the title of the next issue?
I guess
it's number 10.
It is number 10. It is the Man of Yesterday. So that'll be our teaser. Of course, this is an old comic, so you can go to your store and pick it up.
Definitely.
11 dropped a little bit ago, so that's where we're gonna stop this being a weekly series in 2 weeks.
And it'll be a monthly series, which is kind of what I was hoping for.
Back into a monthly series. Also, side note, there's a really good chance that that first Wednesday in April, I'm gonna have to bow out.
Okay.
So just letting know I'm taking a real vacation for my first time in
is that April? That's around April when is that? It's around April the 5th, right?
Yeah, the first is April 1st is Monday, so it'll be like a Monday, so it'll be like the 3rd.
Okay, that actually, I've got stuff. I have things coming up on that week. Also, issue 4 came out. Finally got it.
Woohoo!
So check out American Girl issue 4. My one of my best issues yet. One story, one backup story. And the backup story is super necessary because it leads into issue 5. So whole bunch of awesome stuff. Yeah. And this has got some amazing double page spread work, and putting some interesting references to some cool stuff in there.
Well, you know what Brian Ball says? He says if you make it to 4, you're doing something real. So.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it was funny. The minute I said issue 4, he retweeted it. So I was like, okay, I have a real comic now because he saw the issue 4. Yeah.
Yeah. I've done hundreds of pages. I don't think I count. So, but that's fine. So, also, just to let people know, I don't have a link prepared or anything, and I'm not going to take time to look it up. But starting March 1st, that's 2 Fridays, you can order the Flock Sidekick Adventures, featuring one story by yours truly. So,
cool.
There you go. Check it out. Give Scott some money. So, and that's all I know for now. I do have some Forces pages that are just waiting for colors, but my day job is doing bad things to me, so I got to take care of that stuff first.
All right.
So, hopefully soon we'll have some more stuff for that. But definitely give Twitless his Omega Girl number 4 some love, people, because the world needs more love. And until next time, get out there and read some comics.
Definitely.
So we'll catch you out next week. Bye.
Bye.